Keep losing your train of thought mid-sentence. You walk into a room and forget why. You stare at your laptop knowing you were about to do something important, but your brain has gone completely blank. If that's becoming your new normal, this episode is for you, because brain fog might be common in menopause, but that doesn't mean you just have to live with it. This is Women's Health Unwrapped. I'm Nicola Farndell, and each week we strip back the noise around health and habits so you can finally feel clear, capable and confident in your body again. And today we're diving into what brain fog really is, why it happens during perimenopause and menopause, and most importantly, what you can do to feel sharper, calmer and more like you again. Now, you just have me with you today, no guest. I hope that's okay if you're a regular listener. I know lots of you love the guest episodes, but I wanted to just bring this particular conversation to you on my own because it's something so important. It's something that I have clients, the women that I connect with in my corporate workshops and in other groups and communities ask me about all the time. And I really want to say this right at the start. You are not going mad. You are not losing it. Whatever it might be, the plot. As some of you tell me, I'm losing the plot. And you're definitely not the only one feeling like this. Brain fog is one of the most common symptoms women experience during perimenopause and menopause. But we rarely talk about the real cost. Not just the frustration of forgetting your keys or walking into a room and blanking, but what it does to your confidence, your self-belief, the way you see yourself, especially at work or in conversations, or when you're trying to show up as your best self and you feel like your brain just won't cooperate. Now, I remember a phase a couple of years ago when this really started ramping up for me. I knew I was in the midst of perimenopause. I'd had quite a few things shift and change. I'd always prided myself on having a good memory. I worked in a high pressure corporate role, 20 plus years, juggling a million things at once, remembering all the details, the deadlines, the people, who said what in the meeting. That was part of my identity. Nicola, who gets things done and doesn't drop the ball. Then, almost overnight, it felt like someone had wrapped my brain in cotton wool. I'd sit down to write an email and completely forget what I'd opened my laptop for, not just what I was going to put in the email. I'd go upstairs to grab something and just stand there in the bedroom thinking, why did I come in here? And draw a total blank. But the worst moments were in conversations. I'd be mid-sentence and a really simple word would just vanish. I could see it in my mind and almost pull it out of my mouth, but I just couldn't get to it. And that feeling, the heat in your cheeks, your heart racing, the panic of everyone is watching me fall apart and wondering what's going on, that's what really got to me. It wasn't just, oh, I'm a bit forgetful. It became, maybe I'm not as sharp as I used to be. Maybe I shouldn't put myself forward for things. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to run a brand new business. Maybe this is just the start of the decline. If you've had thoughts like those, I want you to know that internal story is often far more damaging than the fog itself. Now, over the past year, I've been digging into this topic, not just through my own experience or the stories I hear from clients, but through the research I've done for my white paper on menopause and women's careers, and the work that I do with corporate teams. I've interviewed women across a range of industries: finance, education, charity, consulting, travel, and brain fog comes up again and again. Women who've been in their profession for 20 years tell me, I used to remember every detail about my clients. Now I have to write every single thing down. I'm terrified I'll go blank in front of my own team. I'm starting to question whether I'm still cut out for this job. These are smart, capable, experienced women, the kind of women everyone else looks at and thinks, well, she's got it all together. And inside, they're quietly thinking, Is it just me? Am I the only one who can't think straight anymore? And many of those women have stepped back in their jobs, professions, careers, and some have actually left altogether. So today, I want to unpack this a little. Not in a heavy medical, like here's the slide deck on hormones and why it's shifting kind of way, although that does have its place and is very important. I want to save that level of detail for the work that I do with organisations and teams or in my workshops with women. This episode is about you, the woman wondering why she can't focus like she used to, the woman holding back in meetings in case her mind goes blank, the woman who finds everyday tasks, driving, shopping, juggling the family diary, more exhausting and scary than she'd ever admit out loud. So here's what we're going to cover together today. What brain fog actually is, especially in the context of menopause, the very real ripple effect it can have on your day-to-day life and your career. And most importantly, some simple, compassionate ways you can start supporting your brain so you feel more in control again. This isn't about perfection. If you're a regular podcast listener, you know that I'm all about moving you away from that belief that health is about doing it all and doing it perfectly. It's about letting go of some of the shame and self-blame. It's not about pushing yourself to have a crystal clear mind 24/7. It's about understanding what's going on and putting a few small shifts in place so brain fog doesn't get to run the show or make you think that you aren't good enough anymore. Let's talk about the real cost of brain fog, not just the signs or symptoms, but the way it shows up in your everyday life, your career and your sense of self. Because yes, brain fog can look like forgetting why you walked in a room, but it can also quietly start to chip away at how capable you feel in the room. Let's break it down into 3 areas. These are what I see most common. Everyday life. It's those moments that catch you off guard, like driving somewhere you've been 100 times and suddenly thinking, wait, where am I going again? How do I get there? Or standing in the middle of a supermarket, staring at the shelves, completely blank about what you came in for. Maybe you're double booking yourself, missing appointments that only an hour ago you knew were in the calendar. Yep, done that. Maybe it's forgetting the school forms for an important trip. And while everyone else laughs it off like, oh, well, you're just so busy. It's just what happens when you get older. Inside, it doesn't feel quite so funny. It feels like you're slipping, like you can't trust your mind the way you used to. And this is not just happening to you. Even high-profile women are speaking out. Davina McCall has shared how her brain fog was so bad she couldn't read an autocue or remember names on live TV, and she seriously thought she'd have to give up presenting. Naomi Watts, famous actress, she's talked about forgetting her best friend's name and being tested for dementia before anyone considered menopause as the cause. So if high women or women in high profile positions with high pressure, high visibility careers like that are questioning themselves, of course you're going to as well. The second is in your work and career, the workplace, because this is where brain fog hits many women hardest. In a UK parliamentary report, 92% of women with menopause symptoms said their work was affected. And I've heard a report from News and Health that said 99% of women said menopause had negatively impacted their work in some way. And the top issues are being less able to concentrate and a loss of confidence. And in real life, that looks like holding back in meetings in case you go blank. Over preparing, checking everything 3 times, 4 times because you're terrified of making a mistake. You're not putting yourself forward for that next step, the promotion or the new project, not because you're not capable, but because you don't feel capable. You believe that maybe you're past your prime, that it's a risk to put yourself into those kinds of positions. And if you've quietly lowered your own expectations like that in terms of what you can handle at work, not because your skills aren't there, but because your brain feels unreliable and you're worried about what might happen next, how it might decline further. That's the cost I'm talking about. And then the third is the inner world. There is a huge inner cost that no one sees. The part where you start telling yourself, I'm not sharp anymore. Everyone else is coping. Why can't I? Maybe I'm past it. Maybe this is just who I am now. The symptom might be brain fog, but the story we tell ourselves, that's often far more painful and damaging. We start to believe we're failing, that we're less than, that we're losing our value. And that's where I really want to interrupt the narrative today, because this isn't your fault. It's not a personal failing, and it absolutely is something we can work with and improve. So, what's actually going on in your brain? Let's keep this simple, because you don't need a biology lecture. There's lots of information online and in books, podcasts, some more reliable than others. But I want to give you some understanding of why, because I think that can be really reassuring. During perimenopause and menopause, your levels of estrogen and progesterone begin to shift. They're two of your three sex hormones, testosterone being the third. And these hormones don't just affect your cycle and your ability to conceive, they play a huge role in how your brain works. Estrogen, in particular, supports memory focus, verbal recall, decision making, the exact things so many women start to struggle with in midlife. It also helps to regulate your mood and supports deep restorative sleep, which means that when estrogen dips, you might feel foggier, flatter, and more forgetful. It also is very neuroprotective and helps to kind of fire those neural pathways in your brain. There is so much going on in your brain as you navigate perimenopause, especially. And Dr. Lisa Mosconi is doing some brilliant work on this. You can get a book or listen to her on podcast. She was really good as a guest on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of the CEO podcast. So if you do want more of a biology lesson, definitely listen to Lisa Mosconi. The thing is, as well as your hormones changing and remodeling your brain in menopause, most women at this stage in this season of life are also dealing with a lot of life load. You're juggling work, perhaps trying to build your career, aging parents, young kids possibly, or teenagers leaving home, running the household, making all of the decisions to keep the family where it needs to be, doing what they should be doing, all while trying to keep your own head above water. Add to that sleep disturbances, stress, emotional pressure, and of course, your brain feels overloaded. Now, research shows that while many women experience cognitive symptoms during menopause, only a small minority go on to develop any kind of long-term cognitive impairment. So if you are feeling foggy, yes, it's very real, but no, it doesn't mean you're losing your mind. It's a transition phase. Your brain is remodeling, and this research is still very new. It's very exciting. I'm sure there's going to be so much more to come in the next 5 to 10 years. But what we do know now means it's remodeling. There really is a rainbow at the end of the very dark weather pattern you might feel you're stuck in now. So it means, it's not always going to be the way it is right now. Do want to say, if you are worried about your memory, or it feels like it's more than usual brain fog, please do speak to your GP or your menopause women's health specialist at your surgery. This podcast isn't here to diagnose anything. It's an invitation to take yourself seriously, to think about what support you need, and know it's okay to ask for it in whatever context that might be. So, what can you actually do when brain fog hits? First, let me say this, there's no perfect checklist. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about gently supporting your brain with what it needs in this season. Think of these as kind of experiments, little shifts to help you feel more steady, more supported, and more you again. And like everything that I share in terms of the suggestions, the ideas, the inspiration to build your own healthy habit toolkit, this is about connecting with what you need and what you think will impact you most right now, and trying things out, taking into consideration how life is, the time you have, maybe challenging yourself a bit on some of those beliefs around any lack of time you tell yourself you have. But it's about putting the pieces together in your own life, in who you are and what matters to you and what you want to change most, and trying that out, seeing what resonates, what makes a difference, and trying other things or trying it in a slightly different way. I think too many of us look for a prescription. We want the checklist, the how to of how do I navigate menopause? How do I get rid of brain fog? How do I stop these hot flushes? Everything, not just menopause health related symptoms and challenges, but everything in our health is going to be individual to you and is always about a total 360-degree whole person approach. It's never about popping one supplement or pill or popping on one lotion or doing one thing like, a 5K run every week. It's going to be a combination, a lovely orchestra of these different healthy habits. So here's a few of the tips that I want you to think about taking on board and possibly starting with one of them to try it out as something you would build as a new habit. The first one is naming it. Don't internalize it. So when that fog rolls in, it can be very easy to spiral into that self-blame and self-criticism about not being good enough and what's wrong with me and why can't I cope anymore. Flip that, okay? Try saying, this is my brain under pressure and hormonal change. What's the next tiny step I can take? It might seem like a really small shift, and it is, it's not going to be a big thing to do, but it will pull you out of the identity spiral that can take you into believing you have something wrong health-wise or mental-wise and that you aren't good enough. It brings you back into action mode. Reminds you that you're not failing, your brain is just calling for support. The second is reducing cognitive overload where you can. Now, we are busy people. Last week's episode with Rinelle was all about that busyness of life and how busy some of us think we need to be to create the happiness we want. But our brains aren't designed to remember 47 different things at once, so don't make them. Write things down. Use lists, shared calendars, sticky notes, phone reminders, journals, whatever works for you. A whiteboard at home, I've got one of those on the wall. Try committing to just one task at a time. No switching between WhatsApp, email, Instagram, Facebook within minutes or seconds even of one another. Think about what you are doing and are you trying to do multiple things at once? For example, prep the dinner whilst also catching up on Facebook. Personally, I live by my calendar. I put a lot in there. We have a shared calendar. We have that whiteboard. I do put reminders in. I need this. This is what supports a smart brain. And it also helps with energy because a lot of us share how fatigued we are, and brain fog and trying to push through and trying to do many things at once is very tiring. It's going to drain your battery fast. The third tip I have is about supporting your body, especially sleep, rest, and blood sugar. That's a big one in menopause. You can't think clearly if you're running on caffeine, adrenaline, toast crumbs, sugar alone. Prioritize regular meals, okay? Protein. I know we're all hearing a lot about protein. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, but yes, you do need protein at each of those 3 meals a day. Protect a small wind down window at night, even if it's just 5 minutes to begin with. Build that up over time, but remember this is about starting small. You don't need a perfect evening routine, but you do need to prepare yourself to rest, wind down and get to sleep and have good quality sleep. That might be just putting your phone down a few minutes earlier, 2 or 3 nights this week. You really can start that small, and those little things alone will start to shift your energy and bring more clarity. The fourth tip is building micro pauses into your day. When you feel foggy, anxious, or scattered, pause. Take some nice, deep, long, slow breaths in through your nose, out through your nose. As I'm recording this, I actually went to a networking meeting this morning in Newcastle, and we had a lovely guest speaker, Laura, who is a breathwork coach, and she guided us through some lovely breathing exercises. And I shared back how often I use breath in workshops or with one-to-one clients to talk to them about how that in itself can be one of those micro, tiny action steps you take to build a habit, to bring more clarity, to bring more focus and energy. So think about those moments in your day where you perhaps need a breath to just reset yourself, to just reduce overwhelm and give your brain some space to reset. It doesn't have to be that hour-long meditation or even a 20-minute meditation. I know we'd all love to go on one of those gorgeous retreats we see online and have some real off time. Maybe that's an aim you can build for 2026 for yourself. But just pause in your day, make it small, and just check in with how you feel. And ask yourself what actually matters in the next 10 minutes. What do I really need to focus on? And that links with the other tip about not trying to do too many things and be too busy all at the same time. And then the fifth final tip is talking about it. Like, share this with someone else. You don't have to broadcast it loudly to everyone, but I really do encourage sharing how you feel with someone you trust in your life. Maybe that's your partner, might be a friend, might be a work colleague, someone who you feel safe talking really openly and honestly with. Because when we hold on to something like brain fog, it can build shame, and shame grows in silence. If we keep that to ourselves, we can build that narrative, that story, and let that quietly make us shrink into our lives and start accommodating the brain fog so that cost builds up more and more and gets more impactful in a negative way. Just remember that this isn't about you trying to fix yourself because you're broken. It's just navigating something very real, something that is happening because of biological changes in your body. And you really do deserve to feel supported, not ashamed. So seek support. Let this podcast and having me in your ear be that beginning of you sharing what is going on. So as we wrap up, I really hope this has helped with you. And I just want you to know that if you are noticing and feeling really challenged by brain fog, it doesn't mean you are failing, and it doesn't mean you are past it. There is so much research, can't say the word, research showing how much happier and content women are once they're past menopause. Believe me, it's out there. And brain fog definitely doesn't cancel out the years of experience, wisdom, the skill, all that knowledge. It's up there, it's in there. Your brain's just working in a slightly different way. It's a bit like pulling yourself through treacle. What it does mean is that you are in this transition, and therefore your body's just asking for different support. It needs you to really get clear and listen to your body a lot more about what it needs, pick up on those signals. So today we've talked about how brain fog can show up in the small everyday moments, supermarket aisles, the emails, why am I in this room moments. Maybe it's as you've called one of your kids and then you're like, why did I need you again? But it's those bigger ways, those bigger times, moments in your life, in your career, like the doubt inside of a meeting, shrinking back from opportunities in the workplace, quietly wondering whether you're still the woman that people think you are. That's the real cost. It's not just the forgetfulness, but the story it writes about your value. So my hope is that after listening to this, you can start to shift that story even slightly. When you lose your words in a meeting, instead of telling yourself, I'm useless, try, my brain is under pressure right now. What's the next small step? What is going to help me to do in just the next few minutes? And when you need to, write things down, pop it on an app on your phone and lean into your calendar more, instead of just piling yourself with beliefs of I should be able to remember this, why can I not just do that? Instead, try choosing to support your brain rather than keep pushing and challenging it. And if all you take from this episode is one tiny change, I want that to be that one extra pause in your day. Think about how you can just slow down, check in with yourself, and really think about how you can have one honest conversation with someone you trust. I think they're both together very powerful ways to start. Now, if today's episode made you feel seen, if you've been struggling in silence or wondering what's really going on, please know this, that you're not alone, and it's not just a part of aging. Brain fog is real, but so is the path to feeling better. And that's exactly what I help women with inside my Midlife Reset and Rise program, where we look at your habits, your health, and your mindset so you can stop firefighting symptoms and start feeling clear, capable, and in control again. You'll find details of how to connect with me and find out about Midlife Reset and Rise, along with the other ways I can support you, in the show notes. Pop me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram if you are curious about the work that I do, whether it's with the corporate team, and perhaps you can get your workplace to bring me in, or working directly with you, and see what might be the right next step for you. And if you know another woman who's struggling with brain fog, quietly doubting herself, feeling like she's losing her edge, please send her this episode. You never know, it might be the reassurance she's been needing. Thanks as always for listening and for choosing to care for your health, even when it feels hard. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Women's Health Unwrapped. Take care. Bye.